Hello, welcome back to my channel. My name is Dave Hawthorne. This is my channel. I hope you'll like and subscribe if you like the material here, because there will be more of it coming in the coming months. So this is something I'm going to give a little message to you about what I would call prodigal world. We do have a great deal of concern of Christian parents for the prodigal sons and daughters, daughters who are backsliding, and they're doing a lot of prayer, a lot of wringing of their hands for this, and a lot of this is going to come from a message which I originally did on Jesus praying in the Garden of Gethsemane. So when I use that, that's talking about desperate prayer, desperate intercession, and what we're concerned is for something more than just simply those sons and those daughters. There's a whole world out there which is prodigal. And to a certain extent, I may have a little bit of responsibility for that, because years ago I put together a little list of prayer promises to pray for the unbeliever that you love, and that did go out to a number of people. And there was a man who's done a great deal of speaking on praying for backsliding sons and daughters, and it's great that the Lord answered his prayer and brought back his son to full and vibrant testimony to Jesus Christ upon pretty much his deathbed as he was dying of AIDS. So he prayed for this, and I thank God that it was used that way. But I think that it's become too much just Christian parents praying for their straying sons and daughters. Let's take a look at what Charles Finney had to say. Finney dealt with a lot of people who, back in the 1800s, who were seeking prayer for their children. And he talked about that, how they seem to be not really having a clean heart and right motives when they're doing that, selfish motives. I've left this whole quote up there, and you can take a screenshot of it. I'd encourage you to do so and continue to think about it, that make sure that these prayers for children are not motivated by selfishness. They, he gives the example of a husband who is unsaved, and the wife is praying for his conversion. They do not seem to think really about how their husbands are dishonoring God by their sins, and how God would be glorified in their conversion. And parents, often they cannot bear that their children should be lost. They pray for them very earnestly indeed. But if you go and talk with them, they are very tender, tell you how good their children are, how they respect religion, how they think they're almost Christian now. So they talk as if you're afraid you would hurt their children if you should tell them the truth. They do not think how such amiable and lovely children are dishonoring God by their sins. They're only thinking what a dreadful thing it will be for them to go to hell. And unless their thoughts are higher than this, their prayers will never prevail with the holy God. And the temptation of selfish motives is so strong that there is reason to fear a great many parental prayers never rise above the yearnings of parental tenderness. And that's the reason why so many prayers are not heard, why so many pious, praying parents have ungodly children. Much of the prayer for the heathen, the unsafe people, seems to be based on no higher principle than sympathy. And we need to be praying for the glory of God in their lives, for them to turn from sin, to honor God, to glorify God. Prayer for the glory of God. Jesus said, "What things soever you shall do in my name, that will I do, that the Father may be glorified in the Son." And Jesus himself makes that the reason why he answers prayer, for the glory of God. So let's continue on down this thread, this path. Parents may have a personal Gethsemane of prayer where they're overwhelmed with concern for their own backsliding and unbelieving sons and daughters. They may have come to church at one time. They may have shown the evidence of having a real conversion to Christ, a genuine relationship with Christ, or they may not have. But they often can get overwhelmed, especially if their sons and daughters start going away from the church start going into a pagan, selfish lifestyle. They go into addictions of drugs, alcohol. They become sexually active. They hang around with troublemaking crowd. So they may go into a Gethsemane, a prayer for them. And I think, it's great that they're praying for them, but the Gethsemanes that believers around us are entering far too little anymore are the kinds of Gethsemanes that each one of us need to have. Prayers of intercession, Gethsemanes of intercession for the world around us. That's something more than just simply continued, even obsessive prayer, supplication for a loved one who may be rebellious and straying. And it is something I've observed that very often this rebellion is where the children are rejecting Christ less. They're rejecting over control from obsessive parents, and their parents are using Christianity to try to control their children. So, and if there's intercession takes place, and they're pouring out their hearts for them, do they then turn that into praying for the world around them? Very often they don't. That's a big part of my concern. In this intercession where we can pour out for those who are around us who are lost, who may be not a part of our family, is where our heart reflects more and more the heart of the God for the world. We need, do we have concern for those who aren't a part of our family? Do we pour out our heart in prayer for them? Do we care about them at all? And often, really, isn't the reason why there's all this prayer for the prodigal simply the reputation? Reputation in the church. I'm here. I'm this godly person in church, but my son or daughter is turned his or her back on the Lord, and is out there living a life of hell. And so, isn't that our reputation? My reputation as a parent, my reputation, isn't that a great deal of what that's about? So, if we're going to seek God for children who are straying, we need to seek them and trust them to God, and stop trying to overwhelm them with any attempts to control them. No obsession to control. And if we do that, there will be tremendous opportunities for ministry open to us if we open that other door for reaching out to the world without Christ, to those around us. There's a missing Gethsemane, which I mentioned, where I believe that the church is underwhelmed with concern for God's sons and daughters in the church and the world. Those in the world who may not be a part of our family, who are backsliding. Those who are God's creation, other human beings who are lost, but we're not praying for them. We need to make the Gethsemane of our lives about the prodigal world rather than just the prodigal child. And when we do that, we declare before God and the world that our love for God in this prodigal world is much more than about our family and our reputation, that we're really concerned for the lives of everyone who is lost, and for this world, and for the glory of God who answers prayer. And when we do this, and when we seek not only to pray for them, but to minister to those around the prodigals, we send a message to them that it really isn't just about them. They don't get control back with their rebellion. And it's up to them to stand before God as a responsible adult who's reached the age of accountability before God. And the prayer needs to reach beyond the prodigals in our families to the prodigals outside our families. Something that seems to happen for us far too little anymore. Prayer for the ones that we see who are not following Jesus in our communities, that we know, the people that we see around us, the people that we work with, the people that we rub shoulders with, to reach out to them, show that concern in prayer. And if you're praying for a prodigal, a son or daughter that's backslidden or has never really come to Christ. Recognize if you've overly favored or overly protected your own children. These are some aspects which are given to children of affluence: self-important, forget God, shallow character, emphasis on having abundance, more, sense of entitlement, not working hard to keep and grow abundance in their lives. So, do these describe your child? Did you really then bring them up in the nurture and admonition of the Lord to be loving and holy people? Or are you more concerned about strictness and discipline to keep them in line and out of trouble? That's really was the perception of some of the parents when I was growing up. That it wasn't so much about that they loved the Lord, that they kept their children in church, maybe in Christian school, but they saw that as being about strictness and discipline, keep their child in line and out of trouble. I don't know your own heart on that. I pray that that wouldn't have been your heart, but that you would really face, if any way you've overly favored or protected your own children, and that you need to come back to the Lord and say to Him, first of all, that you didn't follow the Word in bringing them up in the nurture and admonition of the Lord, and you didn't concentrate enough on making them holy and loving people as much as you provided things for them. You opened doors for them. You tried to make it more about their prosperity, their abundance in this life physically, and their reputation in their lives, popular kids, etc. So instead of guiding them to be holy and loving people. And there are missing opportunities if your child, if your son or daughter is a prodigal. Very often parents are underwhelmed by the ministry and witness to those outside one's own immediate family, but the people that your son or daughter may be hanging around with, look at them as an opportunity for ministry. Welcome and promote ministry within the entire church, in fact, to any of those who are outside the main families in church, the core families of the church who want to serve Jesus with their hearts, even if they're not the sons and daughters of the families in the church. I often felt this as I was growing up. My family was not faithful in following Christ at the time I was growing in the Lord. At the time I came to the Lord, and I came to the church. My heart is now to serve Jesus, and I felt passed over many times for those who were the sons and daughters of the people who were in the church. And I was there. I wanted to serve Jesus, but they were more concerned about someone else who really didn't want to follow Jesus that much. So we need to realize those who want to serve Jesus with all their hearts, make sure that we're serving them. Make certain that they do have the prayers and the concern, the love, and that you do open your homes and your hearts and your lives to those who are in the church, who love Jesus, who may have come there from who knows where, but Jesus touched their lives. And practice simple kindness, concern, loving, and listening, and inclusion. Recognize that those who the prodigal may be hanging around with, that wrong crowd that you think that they are, recognize that they are living in darkness themselves. They may not have the opportunity to hear the gospel they may not have had parents that actually are even concerned about their salvation at all, may not be following Jesus at all. They may not have much, if any, love and kindness, little concern and genuine listening in their lives. Understand that those who are you may be thinking of the wrong crowd that your children are hanging around with, your sons and daughters, that deep down, whatever front they put up, they're still scared little kids. And you can still minister Jesus to them. Love them. Give them kindness, concern, and include them with the family as you can. Don't put up walls against them. Remember that you're not dealing with an aggressive adult, not highly educated atheist or anti-theist. So often those who might be hanging around with, they may parrot some of these ideas that they may get them from their surrounding environment, our world, their own family, or their media. But at that age, those definitely aren't strongly founded convictions and belief, and there's no reason for you at all to be fearful of that person. I heard a story once some years ago. Two Christian parents whose child started hanging around with the wrong crowd. For a while they were upset and discouraged, but then they saw this as a ministry, the opportunity to minister to the adolescents who are with the wrong crowd. And after all, the circumstances were bringing them into their own home, and they ended up winning several of their own straying sons and daughters, whoever the child was at that time, winning them to Christ from those kids with the wrong crowd. They prayed for them, they invited them to dinner, to evenings with the family, and their child came back to Christ as they saw that those that the child were hanging around with, that they thought had the answers, that instead those were coming to their own parents with the answers which they were rejecting. And they wanted what their own child, and that their friends wanted, the friends from their own crowd wanted what that child who was hanging around with had all along. So remember, God is concerned about a prodigal world. These are some of the key scriptures for where Jesus talks about reaching out to the whole world. And your eyesight is you're too nearsighted if all you see is that straying son or daughter. Lift up your eyes to the whole harvest. See that he has commanded us to go into all nations. See that he has told us to be witnesses with the power of the Spirit upon us, and witnesses to the ends of the earth. God is concerned about this prodigal world, beyond just your son or daughter, and look for his glory. Certainly pray for that son or daughter with all your heart, but pray for the world. Pray for those you need. Seek to witness them also. Don't make it just about the rebellious son or daughter, because you do give them a chance to control back when they make it about their own rebellion. And the final thoughts, just listen to what Billy Joel had to say. This is a song of his. I don't remember the name offhand. I don't like the vast majority of what this song says, but some of the words which he puts in this song should be extremely disturbing to the church, and should awaken the church to its responsibility toward their lost and winnable individuals that are from the wrong crowd, who are hanging around the prodigal. You say your mother told you all I could give you was a reputation. She never cared for me, but did she ever say a prayer for me? Let's make Billy Joel mistaken. Let's put these words back on him and say, yes, yes, yes. Caring, prayer seeking were those who were the lost and winnable individuals from what we may call the wrong crowd. I appreciate your time. I hope this is communicated with you. I really want you to understand that this could be really an opportunity for you to reach some other people besides that son or daughter. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your concern. There's going to be more up in the channel. Please hit like or subscribe if you wish to hear and see more. Thank you.